Was Murtala Muhammad not the leader of that coup?
Murtala Muhammad was the architect and a very hothead that we know history says and describes him was the major actor, planner. But he stayed back in Ikeja. The mandate was to the mutineers to strike when they get to Ibadan. Not do it in Kaduna for the political consequences. Not in Enugu nor Benin, but they chose Ibadan. Ibadan had been marked for the operation. But Murtala Muhammad was the actor behind the scene.
Who was Theophilus Danjuma to the head of state?
Thank you very much. Captain Theophilus Yakubu Danjuma was the chief security officer to the head of state, Major General Ironsi. He was, as we know, CSO. They are to protect the life of the person and his or her family. So Danjuma was the chief security officer to Ironsi.
The chief security officer killed the man he was meant to protect.
In his, he made some statements shortly after, but about 20 years ago or so. He said the intention was just to kidnap Ironsi, put him on trial, and explain the reason why his government had not prosecuted the Major Kaduna Nzeogu team that led the first military coup. That the intention was just to arrest Ironsi, take him to a trial, and ask questions. But he said suddenly, when they were descending the stair of Government House Agodi, one of the RSMs, subaltern that he used to arrest Ironsi, became uncontrollable. And that it was that young middle officer who ordered the firing of Ironsi and Fajuyi.
My guest is Chief Lekan Alabi, Mayor Olubadan of Ibadan Land, and the founding Secretary General of the Adekunle Fajuyi Foundation. It's about the power of history. It's about the power of analysis. Are you in this class of politics and power? Because what transpired was the power game. The January 1966 coup, that some have called the Igbo coup, was carried out primarily by Igbo officers within the Nigerian military. Their stated goal was to eliminate corruption and ethnic favoritism, which they believed was crippling the nation's development. The coup resulted in the deaths of prominent political leaders, including the Prime Minister, Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, Premier of the Northern Region, Ahmadu Bello, and Premier of the Western Region, Samuel Ladoke Akintola. Major General Aguiyi Ironsi, an Igbo officer, emerged as the head of the military government after the January 1966 coup. Let me make the point here. The officers that carried out the coup did not emerge as the leader of the country. Aguiyi Ironsi at that time was the head of the army. I am not sure he was part of the coup. Was he part of the January coup?
No, he wasn't. He wasn't. Despite being the Supreme Commander, the GOC, yes, he was the GOC of the Nigerian Army, but later became the Supreme Commander on being appointed the military head of state. But he wasn't part of it. The master planner was Ife Ajuna, a graduate from the University of Ibadan, who held the high jump record in Nigeria and West Africa. He consulted with his fellow Major Chukwuma Kaduna Nzegu.
Hot-headed.
A revolutionary. Nzegu was a true revolutionary because in his broadcast on 15 January 1966, which can be Googled, he said, among others, the plan of this government, as you have rightly said, is to eliminate corruption, accusing Nigerian politicians of not only being 10%ers, they've graduated to 100%ers. Another focus, he said, was they were going to release Chief Obafemi Awolowo from the Calabar prison, where he was serving a 10-year jail, put him as the head of state, and give him military muscle for 6 months. Upon the stabilization of the future Awolowo federal government, he, Chukwuma Kaduna Nzegu, will resign his commission from the Nigerian army and go to the then South Africa to fight apartheid.
Remember, it's a class of politics and power.
Yes.
And as you listen, I will always recommend books to you to read. I have a book here. You can, if you're watching online, are you watching me on Facebook now? You can see this book. It's entitled Nzogu. I recommend this book to you. Obasanjo wrote this one. Nzogu. Go get it. If you don't know how to get it, you can contact me. I'll also tell you how to get books. So you can contact me on 080-999-18449. That is not the studio's number, so don't call that number. Contact me on WhatsApp if you want to know how to get books. So I recommend this book to you, Nzogu, written by Olusegun Obasanjo. It will help you in your knowledge of history. Read. When you read, you think critically. I have another book here entitled Ironsi, Nigeria, the Army, Power, and Politics. Can you see this book? Hey, come and watch the Radio Man. Can you see Chief Lekan Alabi? You should be watching us. And remember, you can download State Affairs app. You can download State Affairs app anywhere in the world. And you are watching and you are listening. So go on Google Play Store, download the new State Affairs app. If you had the old app, just update it. Remember my or your app? If you've not downloaded my or your app, you will be missing. Download the app on Google Play Store and join the class. So come online and join the class. I'm streaming on Edmond Obilo's pages on Facebook. I'm streaming on State Affairs page on Facebook. We are streaming on Splash FM page on Facebook. Leave your comments. You can tweet at me. Ask questions. Chief Lekan Alabi is here. So go on Twitter. You can tweet at me. Tweet at Splash FM 1055 at @eobilo. You can leave a message for me on Instagram. Search for Edmond Obilo on Instagram. Follow me. Let's engage. There is also State Affairs on Instagram. Search for State Affairs at State Affairs NG on Instagram. And I'm coming out with a newsletter soon. Some of my scripts on this program I can send to you, but you have to subscribe to the newsletter. I give you details of history. That will be the takeaway notes from the class. Right? So I'll be giving you notes that you can take away, but you subscribe to the newsletter. That will be out soon. And from here, I'm going to pick the first 10 persons to join me in the resource center in the class of politics and power. In that case, we are coming closer to learning about leadership. So I've recommended 2 books to you this morning already. Nzogu by Olusegun Obasanjo and Ironsi, Nigeria, the Army, Power and Politics, written by Chuks Iluebunam. Written by Chuks Iluebunam. Read these books. If you don't know how to get them, you can contact me on 080-999-18449. And that WhatsApp number, you can also tell me about situations around you. You can give me information about what is going on around you. If you're not good with WhatsApp, you can email me, eobilo@stateaffairs, eobilo@stateaffairs, and you can get me. Right? So email, that's my email address, eobilo@stateaffairs.com.
Radio man.
Sir.
Kindly I tolerate my interjection. There is another title which I want to recommend on your program.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. It is called Why We Struck by Major Adewale Ademoyega.
Yes, it's one of the books I was going to recommend in this class too.
Thank you.
You need to read that. You need to read that. Why We Struck.
Yes.
Yes, it's one of the books. I came with 10 books to recommend to you. You know, I said the theme of this class is critical thinking. And critical thinking you will get from reading. It's still the story of Aguiyi Ironsi, Adekunle Fajuyi. You know, the statue of Adekunle Fajuyi is somewhere in Dubai, opposite Union Bank. Is it Union Bank? Around that first bank in Dubai there. How many of you know?
It's called the Ido Cenotaph, Dubai.
You know, it's until 2 years ago I noticed that was Adekunle Fajuyi. I just was, who is this military officer? I walked in, I said, Adekunle Fajuyi, my guy.
The colonialists built that spot and put the unknown soldier dressed in the subaltern uniform of the typical African soldier, as you also have at Idumota in Lagos. So one day, one of the military administrators removed the British statue of the African soldier and took it to the government house, Agodi, facing the government house. And when the civilian came, they thought it was a bad symbol for democracy. A soldier facing the government house, Agodi Ibadan. So they removed it, transferred it back to Ido Cenotaph. Then another military officer came and said, no, instead of the unknown soldier, put the effigy of Lieutenant Colonel Francis Adekunle Fajuyi, the man who exhibited this world standard ethics of the army.
Loyalty.
Thank you.
Loyalty.
Bravery, loyalty, and honor.
He died for his boss.
Oh, God. He had every opportunity to escape or negotiate with the young mutineers. But no. He said, no, you should have taken him in Kaduna or Enugu or Benin, not here. What do you want me to say to Nigerians and the world? And you people, do you realize that myself and the Supreme Commander, we have been friends from the Congo because they were friends.
Yeah.
Even though Ironsi was his senior. And you know, both of them were chubby. But Ironsi was taller, but they look alike, sort of. And they were friends. So he said, rather than betray my friend, my Supreme Commander, no, I would die with him, along with him.
And they died together.
The Land Rover that was driven out of the government house, Agodi, was almost moving when Fajuyi jumped inside it, because they were giving him the option. They said, sir, we have not come for you. Rather, we have come for this man. And that one man was the thing that infuriated Fajuyi most. A major general, GOC of the Nigerian Army, now Supreme Commander of Nigerian Forces, military head of state, you are referring to him as that man.
Perhaps he didn't understand the reality of a coup at that time.
And that will be. Yes, that. Until a coup is successful. What's it? Where the where they execute them. If a coup fails, the planners know they are going to end because my execute one. It is when it is successful that now you start saluting. Like Niger now. It's successful. Some coups fail, even at planning stage. Babangida is on record of being the meanest executioner of so-called coup planners twice. During the alleged Vasa coup of December 1985 and during the April 20, 1999 purge of Major Godwin Oka, Gideon Oka.
If Gideon Oka and co had caught him.
42 young officers were executed despite the pleas from the world. Babangida executed them, wanting to make it known plainly to everybody in the armed forces that if you fail, you get a death certificate.
Babangida that took away his best man, Mamad Vasa, he killed him.
The son of Mamad Vasa, till tomorrow, insists that his father was honest or not guilty of the allegation against him. Even the wife, they are all still standing on the denial that Mama Vasa didn't plan any coup against Babangida. More so, not only Babangida's best man, the man who got the entrance form to NDA for Babangida. So you have to beware of friends. There are many lessons to learn. Beware of that man, your so-called closest friend. Because when Nzeogwu was rounded up in Kaduna and put in detention, he still insisted that there will be war between the North and the South, and that he was going to lead the war of the North. When he heard that Ironsi had been invited by the Senate in Lagos. The Senate president was Senator Nwafo Orizu, who invited the head of the army to take over. And Nzeogwu said no.
Was that invitation voluntary?
It was constitutional because they met. The Federal Executive Council quickly met.
Did they have any option?
They didn't. They didn't.
The military boys were already on rampage.
They didn't. And when they were hearing, and the things were getting clearer, that Nzeogwu was a revolutionary, and he didn't care a hoot. And they read the speech at that address, 100%ers, and he said they were going to deal with them. They quickly assembled and said, please, head of the army, come and take over.
You could see the way he took Ahmadu Bello out.
Oh.
That was, something I don't want to read about it.
Nzeogwu was a favorite of Sir Ahmadu Bello because not only was Nzeogwu born in Kaduna and given the middle name of Kaduna, Chukwuma Kaduna Nzeogwu, he was the typical Hausa man. Language, character, fashion, and all. There is a picture of Sir Ahmadu Bello hugging Cadet Nzeogwu.
But why was Nzeogwu so hard on him?
Because when they planned the coup, I had the opportunity of interviewing late Major Ademoyega, 1981, 42 years ago, on my program, Speak Out, at the NTA Ibadan. It's just like yours, current affairs program, 30 minutes. And that was the first time Major Ademoyega will come out in public because the radical University of Ife lecturers and students had invited him to deliver a lecture. That's where I caught him. And the recording was done in the residence of Dr. Yemi Ogunbiyi, who was then a lecturer in Ife. I remember what I went through. Twice the recording was stopped by the radical lecturers. They said, look, you are an agent of the Shagari government. They stopped the interview twice because I asked the question, sir, that's Major Ademoyiga, why was there no northerner in your team that carried out the first coup? He answered. I think the radicals were. When I asked another question, they said, no, stop this recording. Get out from here. Agent of Shagari government. Why are you asking him? But level-headed Major Ademoyiga, he said, please, let him ask me any question. I will answer him. He's doing his job. Let him ask the question the public probably wanted him to ask.
We will continue this discourse after this break. Remember, it is a class of history, a class of politics. The program is State Affairs on Splash 105.5 FM, the Integrity Station. Let's see who is watching this program. Kola Wole Aramide says, why we struck by Ademoyiga, and because I'm involved by Odumegwu Ojukwu, are good books on Nigerian political history and the Civil War. Kola Wole Aramide, you're right. Because I am involved by Ojukwu, you get Ojukwu's philosophical perspective in that book. Another book I'm recommending this morning is Emeka. Emeka is a book on Odumegwu Ojukwu. Ojukwu was in the north when Kaduna and Zogu struck.
Yeah, he was in Kano.
Kaduna and Zogu was in Kaduna.
Yes, it was.
How is it that Ojukwu did not know that a coup was going to take place?
Well, one may get feelers, but no coup planner will be, sorry to use the word, daft as to expose their plan. So it's always kept close to the chest, known only to the inner members of the planners. So Ojukwu wasn't aware, but it was already in the air. As of December 1965, anybody could pick that Nigeria was getting to the precipice.
Operation Wet Year must have been the trigger.
That was it.
Because when we discuss the Civil War,
yes,
we tend to forget that the problem started from the Western region.
Because of the unnecessary intervention of the Tafawa Balewa-led federal government into the affairs of Western region.
Sending Awolowo to prison.
Thank you. Then number two, Action Group Party, like any political party in the world, had internal crisis, whereby the party leadership expelled the deputy national president of the party, Chief Samuel Ladoke Akintola, who happened to be the premier of Western region. So the contention was Akintola should abide, because Nigeria was running the parliamentary system then, should abide with the constitution. That is, once your party says you are expelled, then you go to the polls in the assembly and you test your popularity. But if the odd is against you, you go. But Akintola refused to go.
He was backed by the federal power.
Because he had run to Ahmadu Bello first and then Tafawa Balewa, and they promised him, don't fear. If they expel you on paper, they won't be able to expel you on the ground.
And those three musketeers were taken down by the so-called Igbo military officers.
Yes, they were. But
were they fighting for Awolowo?
From the record and his history background, Chukwuma Kadunaide Nzeogwu was a revolutionary, like the Sankara mold. So he was sincere. That's why his speech generally was talking about corruption, and corruption. But if only the Ironsi, the head of GOC of the army, had not been given power by the Senate, and Nzeogwu had led the revolution. But why did Nzeogwu stay back in Kaduna to kill his mentor.
He was a revolutionary.
Yeah, as it were. Because most of the officers backed out. Who was going to face Ahmadu Bello? Who? They said, no, not me. So everybody backed out. Then he said, I will.
He walked into his bedroom.
He said he will. And what did he do? He now gave the group of soldiers that he took to Sardauna's residence, if after 10 minutes I don't come out, bring this building down. To show you that he had passion for the assignment he took. And he had a hand grade. So at the nick of the 10 minutes, which he gave the boys on the ground, he jumped from the upstairs. That's why, if you see that picture, his right hand was in a sling. And the microphone was held for him by Major Hassan Usman Katsina, the military governor.
The boys in Lagos did not carry out the details of the coup. They should have taken out Aguiyi Ironsi. He was the head of the army.
He was. But Aguiyi Ironsi, when they got to his house, like the Abacha episode, Aguiyi Ironsi was at a social party. Aguiyi Ironsi was dancing the night away somewhere.
But some people felt they were weak. Because Kaduna Zogu did his own job clinically. Then the Eastern region, we should look at it. Yes.
Dr. Michael Okpara was the premier. But he was hosting the president of Greece. Yeah, he was hosting, what's his name now? The Greek president, who was on a state visit. And he had escorted him to the airport. Sir Makarios. That's what saved the neck of Okpara. But Nigerians didn't want to hear that. They said, you should have gone to the airport, let Makarios fly, then do what you did to Premier Ahmadu Bello, Premier Akintola to Premier Okpara.
Azikiwe vanished from the country.
Azikiwe got to know he had been given a hint, and he said he was going on a world cruise.
Who gave him a hint?
Everybody has agents everywhere.
But Ahmadu Bello knew there was going to be a coup.
Oh, he was so confident.
He was confident that it was going to happen to him.
And this is the truth. Because Professor Soyinka was marked for execution. Mr. Tasholani was marked for execution for being a thorn in Western region on the premier and invariably the MPC government. So I went to African Church Grammar School, Apata Ganga Ibadan, for 1964, a border. Soldiers had been positioned inside government college campus.
To do what?
To deal with Western radicals.
So the coup is struck on time.
Then Akintola went on a Friday, on a Thursday. The coup was on Saturday, January 15th. Akintola was in Kaduna on Thursday, January 13th. When he got there, they said Ahmadu Bello was here to return from Mecca. Ahmadu Bello was always observing his Jumat in Mecca and Medina. So Akintola had to wait. When he got back, he went to meet Ahmadu Bello at the Kaduna airport. Ahmadu Bello told him, SLA, go back to Ibadan. Put your mind at rest, because they said they had targeted their own to take place on January 17, 1966. So Akintola returned with the hope and the assurance given to him by Sir Ahmadu Bello. So one group executed ahead of the other. There were two groups planning to topple, one to topple Balewa government and the states, and the other one to deal with the so-called radicals who were troubling them.
Eze Keulezi says, how lovely it would be if our politicians were also ordered to give account of their stewardship like Niger. They need this kind of treatment urgently. Let me tell you something. The worst democratic government is better than a military government, from my own opinion.
Chief Awolowo also said that.
So if you are celebrating what's going on in Niger, I'm not with you. Yes, African politicians have messed up the system, but the military will not do better. Have we recovered from that January coup and the counter coup?
if it had been executed the way it was planned to cover the whole country and not leave out a section, Eastern region. That's one. Two, Major Nzeogwu in his speech, and I still believe him till tomorrow, was they planned to take Awolowo out of Calabar prison because Awolowo was jailed on trumped-up charges of treasonable felony. Install him. They said they will back him with the military might for about 6 months. Once Awolowo government stabilized, Nzeogwu said he was going to resign his commission in the Nigerian army and go to South Africa. That's a radical.
But again, you know, when you gain power,
Yes.
it becomes a different ball game. Sylvanus Olympio in Togo was revolutionary. When he gained power, Sylvanus Olympio didn't want to leave anymore.
Man, we don't know why the black man, on getting power, and it's not only in politics, social services, commerce, mention it. Once the black man gets power, he's going to change. What's his name? Master
Sorry,
Sergeant.
I used the word Sylvanus Olympio. I mean in Yadema.
Oh, the longest.
Yes,
okay,
Yadema
yeah.
of Togo.
Oh, yeah.
He overthrew Sylvanus Olympio.
That's a Yadema, the friend of Gawan. So, Master Sergeant Samuel Doe,
Yeah.
first night in government house, Liberia.
Yeah.
Because Liberia was, and I think it's still fashioned after the USA. So on his first dinner in government house, chandelier, bright lights, covered, where they put food, everything glowing, glittering. He didn't know, he wasn't aware that there was a steward right behind him on table. So Sergeant Doe told his wife, "Hey, honey, we ain't gonna leave this place in a hurry." Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard
He
that.
told his wife, honey, we are not going to leave this place in a hurry. When he saw chicken, baked beans, salmon, milk, is this how they eat? See him. In less than 5 years, he had changed physically.
He became bloated.
Bloated.
And he died there.
And he was doing Afro hairstyle. And when Yomi Johnson cut him and brought out the knife and he was cutting his,
He was crying like a baby.
he was saying, Yomi, begging.
That's what power does to Africans.
And they get drunk.
So if Kaduna Nzeogwu had succeeded, perhaps he would have been one of those crazy dictators produced by Africa.
Please, I want. He was my hero. Please don't disrobe him.
Because from what we have seen from history, even in Egypt,
they do so. They do so.
none of them want to leave.
Yeah,
they didn't change their country.
They do so.
So I have this fear that Kaduna Nzeogwu would not have even changed Nigeria.
Now let me defend him, even though he's dead. His mother was always on his neck. Kaduna, please marry now. Look at your mates, they are married. I want to carry my grandchildren. And he will tell his mom, marriage is not the most, just wait for me, I will marry. But please, don't ask me again about marriage. That's a great man. That's a great man, which in all likelihood might not become a despot like the rest of black leaders. Once they get to power, Kamuzu Banda of Malawi.
He spent almost 30 years.
Kamuzu Banda, they said he had a woman advisor, Madam Betty or something. That's the nickname. Kamuzu Banda will make sure that every night he visited Madam Betty at her home. And whatever Madam Betty told Kamuzu Banda was law.
Look at the one in Zaire. Mobutu Sese Seko.
When Mobutu was caught in the cornered by
Laurent Kabila.
Thank you. Mobutu. Do you know his name? Original name was something Mobutu. Now, when he added the Sese Seko and he translated it, because journalists once asked him, the foreign journalist said, "Why did you extend your name to Mobutu Sese Seko?" He said Sese Seko in Congolese was the one who destroys and leaves the evidence of destruction with fire.
Look at that one in Central African Republic, John Bender Bokassa.
Who clubbed school children for protesting against the quality of the uniform which the government gave the contract to his wife.
So the point is that Africa has never produced a benevolent military leader.
But let me add this, please. Because, I work with 3 military governors, and they were gentlemen officers.
We are still poor, sir.
Now, let us go beyond politics. Let us go beyond soldiers. 4 things can make any human being drunk.
Like?
Beauty. If a woman, everybody is telling, baby, you are too great. Oh, my pretty, she's going to become swollen-headed. Intelligence. If they say, no, you're a genius, you can solve physics, mathematics problem in a jiffy. Such a man or woman is going swollen-headed. Money, that's why Yoruba say, don't judge friendship on loyalty when a person is poor. Is when he gets rich. So beauty, intelligence, money, and position will swell anybody's head.
Can we convert beauty to women?
Women.
All right.
No, women who are listening, please. They are my best friend. If there is no woman in a place, I will run away. I love women.
On July 29th, 1966, a group of northern soldiers, mainly dominated by officers of northern extraction, executed a counter-coup against the perceived Igbo dominance in the military and political affairs. The counter-coup was brutal and targeted senior Igbo military officers. The mastermind behind the coup, Colonel Murtala Muhammad, along with other northern officers, successfully orchestrated a plan to seize power and restore a more decentralized form of governance. Do not forget, after Major General Johnson Aguiyi Ironsi, an Igbo officer emerged as the head of the military government after the January coup. In an attempt to stabilize the nation and bridge the ethnic divide, Ironsi introduced the Unification Decree 34, which sought to create a centralized unitary government, effectively abolishing the federal structure of Nigeria. This move, while aimed at fostering unity, sparked significant controversy and heightened tensions, particularly among the northern population, who saw it as an infringement on their political power. The assassination of Aguiyi Ironsi at Adekunle Fajuyi. Now, during the counter-coup, Major General Aguiyi Ironsi was in Ibadan, don't forget that, the capital of Western Nigeria, on an official visit. Like Chief Lekan Alabi has narrated, he was accommodated at the government house in Ibadan, which was the official residence of Colonel Adekunle Fajuyi, the military governor of Western Nigeria, and a loyal friend and ally of Ironsi. As the coup unfolded, rebel troops surrounded the government house and demanded the surrender of Ironsi. Faced with the choice of handing over his guest or risking a bloodbath, Fajuyi chose to stand in solidarity with Ironsi, refusing to surrender him to the mutineers. Both Ironsi and Fajuyi were subsequently arrested. In a tragic turn of events, the two men were killed by the rebel soldiers, highlighting the ruthlessness of the counter-coup and the intensity of the ethnic tensions that had engulfed the nation. Were they killed at Lalukpon or they were dumped at Lalukpon?
And they were killed at Lalukpon because it was dawn, and the long convoy of army jeeps then, If you saw one army jeep in 1966 or pre-1966, you would jump to the other side of the road. Now you talk of a convoy of military vehicles driven by coup plotters operating on that day. So there was a farmer on his farm who, on seeing the long convoy blazing towards him, climbed a tree and saw everything that happened. So after the soldiers had did whatever they thought they had come to do at that spot, the nearest bush where they can finish them off and turn back, the farmer now came down from the tree, went to report to the chief what he saw. So the people quickly gathered and went and saw it. Then they came to Ibadan and told the government, the people handing government, since governor was taken away, the SMG, Secretary to Military Government and Head of Service, was in charge. So a search party was organized. Then Lagos, somebody had called Lagos. That's where they also are implicating Yakubu Gowon, the chief of staff of the army, of complicity, because Ironsi had called his wife that, hey, I'm hearing noises downstairs. I think something is going on here. The wife heard that already and prayed for her husband. So somebody now, they said Gowon now called and asking them, how far are you going? But please, I don't want any bloodshed. Because he has also been a Christian and gentleman. He said that. He was also accused of being contacted by, what's his name now? The man who killed Murtala Mohammed in Lagos, when he ran to the British High Commission and said they should put him online to Gowon. Dimka, thank you. So all these things they had witnesses. And people don't just die like that. God knows the way he will let somebody, there will be someone who will have a clue to the answer. And for 3 days, Nigeria had no head of state. For 3 whole days, because Muhammad and his gang called it Araba. They say in their language, Hausa means when you distribute things equally.
They wanted to break away.
Thank you. They had sent their families north. And the intention was, when you get to Ibadan and you are getting to Ilorin, blow up the bridge.
And let's divide Nigeria.
It's gone. That is why in the draft of the speech of Muhammad, which the British High Commissioner and the American ambassador quickly managed, certain pages were not taken off. And that's where Ojukwu cornered Gowon for life. That you said in your maiden broadcast that the basis for unity is no longer there.
Mm-hmm.
That was the original text to have been read by Murtala Mohammed. Bye to Nigeria. Bye. Because they will have taken their pint of blood.
So it was even the North that wanted to break away.
The first time secession was used in this country came from the mouth of Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa.
And the British. And Americans convinced them to stay.
So they,
now that you have the big pie, why do you want to divide it?
Thank you. They now told them, do you know the implication of breaking away? You don't have a seaport. You don't have access to anything. You have not planned.
You are landlocked.
You are landlocked. Then they said...
And there's oil in the Niger Delta.
And then the person who should have taken over after Ironsi was Brigadier Olufemi Ogundipe. But
he chickened out.
He ran over. But they advised them. But
he had no option. They were not ready to take orders from him.
It was a sergeant. A sergeant was walking beside his window. And he thought the sergeant was too lackadaisical and all that. And he opened the window and said, hey, the military command, back up, like that the sergeant should please wake up. And the sergeant replied him, hey, brigadier, that, hey, I don't take orders from you. That was the first shock in his life.
He needed to go.
Yeah, time to go. So don't let us talk, say everything on radio. So Nigeria had no head of state for 3 days. So eventually when they negotiated, the American ambassador and the British High Commission, they now settled for the chief of army staff, who had a Muslim name, but was a Christian.
Yakubu.
They said when the Northerners hear Yakubu, they say, power is back to us. That's how Yakubu.
But in the true sense of the word, the Middle Belt carried out that coup.
Oh, they have always been the
You know, sometimes when we think it's Fulani Hausa.
They have the meat betters have always been the ramrod that they will use to knock.
They even fought the war.
Now, they've changed.
Because they've seen the consequences.
You are just using us as there's a technical name for when you are using somebody as a battering rod. They have changed in the middle belt. Now they are in the front line for restructuring Nigeria.
Before you go.
Yes.
So you are celebrating Adekunle Fajuyi today?
Oh, with a lecture. But it's going to be a very modest. It's not the typical Nigerian lecture. There will be no opening prayer. There will be no closing prayer. There will be no cultural dances. There will be no speeches and all that. No. Straight, chairman will speak. Brigadier General Oluwole Rotimi is the chairman. He was the chairman when we had the 30th lecture 27 years ago. Then we are now considering, now that I'm in the studio, we may skip the visit to the site, Lalukman site.
Why?
Why? Thank you. In the last 1 month or so, Lalukman Olodo area had been flooded. The bridge that links the two towns has been washed away. And as at last night, the information I got was that the road will be closed for repairs. So instead of going to Lalukman, the spot where Ironsi and Fajuyi were assassinated, we will just observe the silence in our heart because Fajuyi was a Catholic. So we go straight now to the lecture at 2 p.m.
Where is it holding?
Omajorosun Club. Or if people can please aspire and get a copy of the Nigerian Tribune of today, there's a full-page information at the behest, kindness of the African Newspaper of Nigeria Limited and the chairman, Ambassador Adetokunbo, Olatokunbo, Awolowo Dosunmu. Full-page advert, page 3 of today's Tribune. They will see the details.
Lalukman, is there a cenotaph there?
No. It's just a tombstone. Okay. As the Secretary General of Adekunle Fajuyi Foundation, I approached the late Governor Isiaq Abiola Ajimobi. Your Excellency, please, you need to develop tourism in Oyo State, which the present government says they are not going to tap into. Don't let the spot where Fajuyi and Ironsi were assassinated to go into oblivion. Do something about it. And he agreed. So his government did, they just marked the place out. Because Fajuyi's body was later moved to Ado for burial. And that of Ironsi was also moved to the east. So there is no skeleton, no body in Lalukman or Fajuyi or Ironsi. But that landmark is there now.
I need to go see it someday.
Oh, please come. The day we declared it open, a son of General Ironsi came. The one who served as Junior Minister of Defense during the Obasanjo regime. He came.
Wow. We'll take 2 calls before Chief Alabi goes. 0809115 51055. 0809115 51055. And 080569 98678. Those are the numbers to call. Let's hear from you. Are you watching on Edmondo Bilo's pages? The ball is in your court. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Odilo.
Good morning.
Thank you. I thank God for Chief Alabi there.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ma, can you please turn down the volume of your radio set?
I don't know whoever stopped. Sorry, let me pick up.
Mama, turn down the volume of
I
your
don't know
radio.
whoever stopped the history in Nigeria. The teaching of history, they've done a very terrible thing. I think they should now let us start teaching our children history. It's very important. And even all those books we are encouraging people to read will be incorporated into the system, and the reading habits will now commence, and our children will know more about what is happening in their nation. And from there, we can even have leaders that can be used to correct the ills in this nation. God be with you. Thanks very much.
Radio man, if I may quickly say that we should give credit where it is due and when it is due. We must give it to the regime of President Major General Muhammadu Buhari for restoring history. Oh, that government restored history into school curricula after 30 years yanking by Babangida regime.
The military. So history is back in our schools.
Oh,
That's
yes.
the point.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Yes,
good
good morning.
Sir.
Good morning.
Thank you for the insight about what's happening. I'm someone that loves history very, very much. The other time before you went for advert, your guest was trying to talk about an interview you had with Major Adegboyega. You said when you come back, you continue from there. But
Okay, that's true. That's true. I had the interview when I was the producer presenter of current affairs program at NTA Ibadan called Speak Out. So Major Adegboyega was my guest, and as I said, that interview was almost mad. I was stopped by the radical lecturers and students of Ife. The moment I asked Major Adegboyega, why was no Northerner in the January 15 coup? Yeah.
And why was there no Igbo officer in the counter coup?
It was a Araba. Mohammed called it Araba.
Was there any Yoruba military officer in the counter coup?
No, they went, the Yoruba to suffer for it now. They didn't tell them, particularly in Abeokuta, Alamala Barak and all that. It was kept to the chest of Northerners.
You know, they massacred Igbo officers in that barrack.
Oh, God. They said they wanted to revenge. That's the name of the July 29, 1996 coup. And one of them, in the interview published in a newspaper, admitted that they were holding the planning of the coup along the Ibadan-Ijebu-Ode road. They will leave Ibadan at about 9 p.m. and they will be discussing in a bus so that it won't leak.
Another classic book you should read about military is this book, Soldiers of Fortune, Nigerian Politics from Buhari to Babangida. You need to read this book written by Mark Siolun. I tell you, if you don't know how to get books, look for bookshops. And you can also contact me on @eobilo @stateaffairsng.com. That's my email address. eobilo@stateaffairsng. You can also chat me on WhatsApp. You have any information for me? You want to tell me what's going on around your area? You can also chat me on WhatsApp. 080-999-18449. All right, that is not the station's number, so don't call that number. Just give me info, and if you are interested in books. Another book I think you should read is Nigeria's Soldiers of Fortune. That is part 2 of this first one. The Abacha Obasanjo years. You will know why we are where we are. And this book is a classic. Mark Siolun. Remember, we've recommended 3 already. Why We Struck. Don't forget to get that book. Why We Struck is an interesting book, and you should read it. Why We Struck. Don't forget, written by Adewale Ademoyega, the story of the first Nigerian coup. Why We Struck tells the story of the first military intervention in Nigerian politics. The coup that took place on January 15, 1966 was conceived and planned together by Majors Nzogu, Ifajuna, and Ademoyega. All right, then I've also recommended Nzogu, written by Olusegun Obasanjo. Obasanjo wrote different books on the Civil War.
My Command.
My Command, yes, you need to read that too. You know, Olusegun Nzogu. There's something about this officer. Then Ironsi, the book Ironsi, Nigeria, the Army, Power and Politics.
Do you know Obasanjo and Nzogu slept on the same bed the night of January 15, 1966?
And Obasanjo is telling us he didn't know that that coup was going to take place.
Because Nzogu didn't mention it to him. To show you how much he respected and had confidence in Obasanjo.
They were friends.
And he didn't tell his friend, and they shared the same bed. He didn't tell him. He didn't tell Obasanjo.
That's the power game.
Who
Politics and power. Chief Lekan Alabi.
Yes, and excuse me, the self-styled military president of Nigeria, retired General Ibrahim Babangida, was shaken to his bone by the April 20, 1990 coup of Gideon Oka, because Babangida had been priding himself all over the world that he was involved in all the military coups in Nigeria. So he couldn't believe his ears and eyes and mouth that he was caught passed down by Major Gideon Oka.
Abacha saved him, right?
It was just a matter of luck. They didn't switch. It was done on a Sunday. It was done on a Sunday. And it was not the day they chose. They had to fast forward.
And military coups are coming back in West Africa.
The people who called for it, didn't they jubilate in Nigeria?
They always jubilate, but at the end of the day, what happens?
Because civilians, and I'm sorry to say this, civilians will be telling them later, Your Excellency, and it is then that the thing will start to fall in crumbs. Because if really, in the textbook manner of coup, soldiers shouldn't last more than 6 months.
Bola Tinubu should be worried. Chief Lekan Alabi.
Yes.
Thank you for featuring on State Affairs.
God bless you. Edmund, thank you.
Chief Lekan Alabi Ismail Olubadan of Ibadan land. He is the founding Secretary General of the Adekunle Fajuyi Foundation.